This is Jeff Koyen, President and CEO of 360 Blockchain USA, talking to you from the City Blockchain Summit in Midtown Manhattan. It's part of Blockchain Week 2018 in New York City. I just got off of a really great panel of other blockchain experts talking about mass media marketing and the structure of ICOs and STOs. One of the big points that we made, and it's something that a lot of new investors may not understand, is you really have to look at the token structure. They call it the tokenomics. How are these token sales structured? In some cases, the money that's raised will actually go to a non-profit entity. Now, this started as a positive thing. The people who were raising the money wanted to give confidence to the investors that the money would go to an accountable body. But for an investor, unless you're just looking to speculate on the coin itself, for instance, if you like to hold equity or debt investments, this might not be the right structure for you. So the point being, do your due diligence on all token sales that you're considering investing in. The arrival of blockchain as a mass media product doesn't need the mass media's acceptance of blockchain to become that. It's going to be a back-end engine. It's the TCP packet, and nobody knows what that is. Even if you're around in '92, you didn't really know what it was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I do think that we will see new models of data stewardship happen, but it might be sort of in spite of itself. It's the shiny object. It's the killer app that's going to get people to adapt it and use it. And when my older sister or my mom uses it, she doesn't care if that's blockchain, and may not even care where her data's sitting, as long as she's not getting too many annoying phone calls and having her credit rating hacked.
Yeah, I also think that just so they don't care. However, the GDPR in the EU is going to be a really, really big catalyst. So I do think that those blockchain projects that you see where you're actually safeguarding against those sanctions that are coming out of the EU. I mean, I think it's something like 10% of global turnover is the fine that you get if you are in violation of basically misusing the data. So I do think that you will see, if you're speculating as an investor in the ad tech world or in the world of media and data, those that are safeguarding against those sanctions, I think, would be interesting projects to look at. So you also had another comment about that?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. I agree. I've seen it happen too, and I think the temptation or the model to create the nonprofit, it comes out of the instinct to say we're legit. We're not scammers. We're not offering you equity. This is non-diluting money, but we're not scammers. I promise. Look, we're a nonprofit. We're going to do good things. But from an investor point of view, if you're a speculator and you're a coin holder or a token holder, that's fine. It could drive up price on the token. But if you're trying to do more fundamental investing, if you've given a token, even if you end up with a security token and all the value goes over to the nonprofit, that would always be a red flag for me. So again, speaking as an investor, we put shareholder money into our investments. We don't invest in ICOs directly. We take equity positions in companies that may ICO, and then we get a certain allocation as part of our stake. But yeah, if you're looking for red flags in the ICO world, if you're not looking just to speculate on the coin itself, watch out for that nonprofit model. It's supposed to give you confidence, but as an investor, it might not give you a whole lot of value back.
I think we've only got a couple minutes left. So does anybody else want to comment on the safe or palatable structure? Oh, were we going to do audience questions? Perfect. I love that. Okay. Why don't we spend the time with that? Anybody have a question?
What's that actually mean? That you set up a business as a not-for-profit, or?
You actually set up a separate entity that, in some cases, based on being, if you wanted to be a tax shelter, you would actually set up a non-profit based in another country, like Switzerland, for instance.
Tezos did it, right? Was it Tezos?
Tezos did that, yes. Yes.
People are pissed.
Right. So, so you set up a nonprofit, and the original instinct was to set up a nonprofit because you can't have a commercial entity running a decentralized ecosystem. So there's a philosophy around that you basically are going to have the nonprofit decide how the funds are being distributed. So let's say you raise $20 million in an ICO, you're sitting on $20 million war chest. Do you want that war chest to be in the hands of a commercial entity, i.e. the two co-founders, basically, who could take that money and go sit on a beach? So that was the first instinct of why we would create a separate entity, separate nonprofit. I find a real issue in that because the original investors who have equity in the commercial entity have no control over this nonprofit, and technically the $20 million was raised on the backs of the original funding and the original team.
But where's the IP sit?
So the IP sits in, that's a good question.
It could be open source.
It could be open source.
It could be everywhere.
Right, so the IP would sit in the actual decentralized ledger and could actually be given away. And in some cases, it would sit in a commercial entity, and there would be a licensing agreement between the nonprofit and the commercial entity.
I can see why investors don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly common.
Yeah.
It's incredibly common. And I think all last year, that's what everybody was doing.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's why I bring it up, because I like to think that we've moved beyond that, but we need to come up with more safe models for the original investor. Anybody else have a question?
My next question is for Mr. Koyen.
Oh yeah.
Koyen?
Coin, like Bitcoin.
Okay.
Funny enough.
Coin. With all the increased equity investment into blockchain companies, much more than in the last 2 or 3 years, do you think that is a direct result of more regulation on ICOs, or do you think it's just a circumstance, sort of a coincidence?
I think it's an instinct to head off the regulatory matters that are coming in. Again, like we're not going to put shareholder money into something that's unregulated, that could potentially fraudulent. There's we fiduciary responsibilities. But also I think it is a sea change. I think it is a way of saying, okay, we do accept that, and we're embracing blockchain and crypto as a technology of the future, the most defining technology in the next decade. How can we get in? And in our case, we don't want to just buy coins. We want to have fundamentals, company fundamentals. We want to see founders, roadmaps, P&Ls, and the only way to do that is through equity or debt investments. If they are going to launch a coin, great. That's hopefully more upside for us. But we, and I think a lot of companies out there, want to invest in the original fundamentals that got us all here in the first place.
Do you have an investment thesis that you're following? Your team?
We have certain categories we're in, and we're just very early stage, and we like to take majority investments. We'll take some passive investments in exchange for nice allocations on the back end.
So when you say majority investment, does that mean you want control of the entity?
Generally, yeah. The certain companies we have right now, we work closely with the founders and give them their money and let them run.
Anybody else? No? Oh, yes, you do.
Yeah, can some of you talk about the marketing effort goes into marketing the platform and marketing the tokens?
Yeah.
Guys, can you repeat the question? Would you mind repeating the question so we can hear it?
I've launched one, so I can talk about that. So marketing is everything now. Once you have your structure in place and it's sound and you're not going to go to jail, once that's all set up, it's all marketing from there. And one piece too, I want to mention, somebody mentioned Telegram here, and I think it's important for the investors here to understand what Telegram is and how important it is in terms of taking a look at how the social media excitement around a project. I think is really important, because if you're going to do a public sale at any point in time, you're going to want there to be a strong following of the project, and you'll find that evidence on Telegram, which is an app that you can download and get in there and start looking, because there's a lot of underground chatting that's going on and a lot of momentum and speculation that happens in Telegram. So social media presence, an international social media team is what is required in order to really make these projects, to gain the level of buzz that you'll really need for the token to really jump up in value. And also the level of content marketing that you have to produce to make a project seem actually legit and viable is enormous. So I think people are not really understanding how big that investment is in content generation and thought leadership. Medium.com is the place to go for information. The hits you get versus even getting a feature in Inc. magazine, for instance, is not going to be the same as the targeted eyeballs that you'll get on a really great thought leadership piece on Medium. So if you're investing in these projects, definitely check them out on Medium. Look at their Telegram following. It's super important. It's part of the due diligence process. Yes. Okay, that's it. We're done. Thanks, guys.